Match once again. Welcome back to another review. There's another paid request, this time from Jose Ballard. And it's for the film Journey to the Center of the Earth from 2008. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos or topics, reactions, commentaries, re-reviews, whatever, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. Now, Journey to the Center of the Earth. This is a film that I forgot a bit about. I also forgot there was a sequel with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And I can see why, because you watch it and it's pretty uneventful. It's a pretty uneventful adventure. There's really not much awe. There's not much scope. It was a movie that tried to do a lot of the 3D route, so there are times where like stuff's once in a while like, thrown to the camera. Like hold a book out and throw it. And the effects really don't hold up the best. I mean, granted, this is 2008, not today. So the CGI is not going to be as great as today's, supposedly. But they're very dated. I'm a big Brendan Fraser fan. So he tried to keep it together as best as he could. I always liked Brendan Fraser. Ever since I first saw him in Encino Man. I enjoy that movie. I also enjoyed... By the way, I wish Encino Man got a Blu-ray that has the full uncut version. Because I know the VHS, it's a little bit longer. Or at least some VHS. And then the DVD, for some reason, they took some stuff out. Probably not realizing it, or... I don't know what the deal is with that. And it'd be nice to have features. Anyway, I'm going off tangent. But Encino Man, I like the first Mummy movie. And he's one of those actors that sadly, his career took a big hit. You know, doing stuff like Furry Vengeance. Or The Mummy 3 wasn't really that great at all. Looney Tunes Back in Action wasn't his fault. He did the best that he could. Film, the more I think about it, I could probably watch as a time waster, I could watch as a time waster, Looney Tunes Back in Action, but it should have been a lot better considering it was Joe Dante directing it. Now I know he's going to be in a new Martin Scorsese film. Sadly, I think it's going to be a small supporting role, but nice to see him getting more work. You know, seemed like a nice guy, good guy, and like I said, always been a fan of his. Wish he could have done more, I would say more adventure films, but that's what he did with this. And this one, he plays a scientist whose brother went missing a long time ago. One day, his nephew is sent by the nephew's mom to, hey, hang out with him for a bit until she gets settled somewhere because they're moving. And so Brendan Fraser is trying to hang out with his nephew, and he's telling stories about, hey, I knew your dad's a good guy, telling stories about him, got a bunch of the guy's stuff in a box, starts sifting through it, and start finding a couple things, including this book of Journey to the Center of the Earth. And flipping through the pages, there's some info and details and studies. And starts to realize there's something more to this. And it sets certain dates and times, and Brendan Fraser studies volcanoes, and there's seismic activity that wasn't there before, and it syncs up to the data that was written in the book. And so him and ultimately the kid, played by Josh Hutcherson, I believe he was also in the sequel Journey 2. He's been in a few other stuff. I think he was in the Red Dawn remake. He's one of the kids in Cythera. I think he's the older brother in Cythera, which is a film I liked. And he goes along. Brendan Fraser says no. The kid says, hey, he was your brother, he was my dad, I want to see what happened. So they go there and study. They deal with a guide, female guide. The three of them go up. And soon after, they try to look at the seismic data. Lightning's hitting it. Ba, ba, ba. They escape into a cave. They're trapped in there. They gotta find a way to get out. And stuff happens, but you sit there and you go, at the end of the day, it's kind of a forgettable journey, like I said before. They rappel down. There's a minecart scene where they're in minecarts, and the effects are not that great. It's weird that you look at Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and its minecart chase, and that holds up better. And that was what, 84? 1984? And that holds up better than a film in 2008. But that's because they were using miniatures and... Yes, there's some scenes that don't look the best, but they still look better than this here because that technique still feels more natural than the technique in this movie. Now, when it shows like a POV of the cart going through the up and down, left and right, that's not too shabby. But when it cuts back, you see Brendan Fraser, the kid or the girl, holding on, and you see the very fake green screen background, that doesn't hold up at all. And there's a point where the three of them get split up, and they all gotta get back together. Then there's a moment where they get to a spot, and they realize underneath is this glass. They fall through. And when they're falling, really bad CGI. And they, again, from time to time, because this is a 3D movie, they do try to do some of these gimmicks where when they fall, a CGI flashlight goes up in the air. And I'm sure that was supposed to be like a 3D shot. Ooh, we see it. But when you watch it on home video and you watch it at over 10 years later, it just looks ridiculous and awkward. The one genuine laugh I got out of it was they're falling, and then they're still falling, and even Brendan Fraser goes, "We're still falling, ah!" But even then, I saw that done in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, where Bill and Ted are falling, and they start playing a game while they're falling. That's the thing with A Journey to the Center of Earth, you're expecting a lot more imagination. You're expecting a lot more creativity. You're expecting a lot more awe and wonder and, okay, the Journey to the Center of Earth, what imaginative juices can we get out of this? Can we squeeze out of this? The only close to it is there's these birds that glow blue that are luminescent. They're bioluminescent, kind of like glowworms, kind of like fireflies, but they're birds. That's really one of the only times it gets creative. I like the look of those birds. It was cute, cool, different. And then when they get there, spoiler, they don't explore much. There's some water. There's some jungle. They go into this little structure. Off camera, they find the body of Brendan Fraser's brother, the kid's dad. They bury him. Then they decide very quickly to get out of there. Some bad-looking CGI fish attacks them during the storm. The kid gets separated from Brendan Fraser and the girl. I didn't mind this bit where Brendan Fraser has to deal with these carnivorous plants and fighting them. And there's a point kind of like what he would do in The Mummy where one tries to attack him and Brendan Fraser's like, backhands it. I didn't mind that little moment. I thought that was fun. It was a nice, it's kind of wink to the audience type of moment. While the kid is looking around, there's a part where he's got to go on these floating rocks because it's magnetized. Again, really crappy looking CGI. This is definitely one of those movies that's CGI heavy and it hurts it in the long run. See, this is what I talked about CGI. People think I just go on this rampage about CGI. Yes, there's good CGI. There is. But in the long run, CGI does not hold up the best compared to practical effects or sets or miniatures. Yes, you could say the original King Kong from the 30s is dated, but I think there's a charm to the stop motion because it's still something physically being altered and something physically there, although it's moving in a unique way because of the stop motion technique. When you watch something like Indiana Jones and you see this big fucking boulder right behind Indy, it holds up because there's a real fucking thing behind him. Even the minecart Temple of Doom I was talking, there's at least miniatures and there's a cut between the two, and it's interspersed with real stuff, like a real guy in front of the mine trying to put his fucking foot as a brake. And the way that's intercut and the way that's done with the stuntmen, because you're not going to have Harrison Ford try to stick his foot in a damn mine cart. That's what I'm talking about, is that when you put all these things together, instead of just all a green screen, it's going to hold up better in the long run. This is an example of just doing that all CG, no practical. I don't even know if the plants are practical. I don't think they are. There's a dinosaur, bad looking CG. He's chased by a dinosaur. Brendan Fraser gets the dino off the cliff. The lady arrives with a boat. They go up a geyser. They escape. It's over. And that's really like the movie. And the kid found a bunch of diamonds, so now they're rich. He also took one of the birds. Which I don't know if that bird appears in the sequel. Because again, the kid is bad. I don't know why Brendan Fraser's not in the sequel. I don't know if they asked him not to come back. Or they're like, nah, he's old hat. Bring in Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And Journey 2, I remember not being that much better. Honestly. Again, it is a forgettable film. As I like Brendan Fraser, but there's not a whole lot memorable moments to this. I will say, at the very least, it's pretty quick. It's pretty quickly paced, I'll give you that. About 13 minutes in, boom, we're now in Iceland, and they don't start going into the cave and their journey. So it doesn't take like 30, 40 minutes to get started. It takes 13 minutes of setting up the characters and the situation and what's going on and what the start of the journey needs to be, and then boom. Pretty quick. Pretty fast pace. I'll give you that. Brendan Fraser, he's trying to do his best. I think he's got a nice, charming personality. I do. Again, I always liked Brendan. I think he does the best that he can. It's not a big cast of people. I mean, for most of the film, it's just those three characters. They don't meet any other characters. Except at the very, very end when the movie's over. Pretty much over. After they escape. But think about it. Like, this is what the journey is. Rappel down. Minecart. They see the jungle, the water. Fish. The plants. And the T-Rex. That's pretty much it. Oh, if you want to talk about the kid floating on the magnetized rocks. Because he gets on one and it keeps twirling. Because he's the floating in the middle because the magnetized stuff. That's it. I've left nothing out. And you're sitting there going, man, this is just... And again, even the journey in the center of the earth, there's no awe or splendor or creativity involved in that. I mean, it almost looks like the fucking bits in Star Trek 2 when Kirk and them, after Khan fucked them over, they were brought in to see what Genesis did. And that seemed like it had more awe and splendor than this movie. And that was a movie back in the early 80s. The score I thought was forgettable. The direction was mediocre. And it just needed a lot more visual splendor I think you needed a director that said we need to utilize a lot more practical effects. We need to use a lot more. I mean, Josh Hutcherson was in the film called Zathura before this. I think it was before this. I forget what year it came out. And that seemed like it had more creativity and more stuff happening and more stuff going on. But, that was directed by Jon Favreau, who went on to direct Iron Man in 2008. While this director, I don't know who this director is. I don't know what he's done. I could look it up, I guess, real quick. Could look it up real quick, I guess. Sorry for the delay. Let's see. If it does it. Eric Brevig. I don't know who the hell is Eric Brevig. Oh, Seth Meyers, the late night host, he's in it at the very beginning and very end as a dickhead giving Brendan Fraser shit about his job. He was a visual effects supervisor on films like Pearl Harbor. He was a second unit director on Pearl Harbor. This is the first narrative feature shot entirely in digital 3D. That was a mistake. Oh, he also did Yogi Bear. That's the other film he did was Yogi Bear. And Sally, I'd probably rather watch Yogi Bear than this. So yeah, he pretty much worked on visual effects for The Lost Boys, Scrooged, The Abyss, Total Recall, Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, which that was a ride. Worked on effects for Men in Black, Wild Wild West, The Day After Tomorrow, John Carter, second unit director on Men in Black, second unit director on Wild Wild West. And yeah, the two films he directed was this and Yogi Bear. Yeah, so, okay. All you Yogi Bear fans, I mean, I don't know. Whatever the fuck. Whatever the fuck. I guess that says a lot. Maybe they need a director that had a bit more vision, passion, a bit more shooting in all digital 3D. It didn't help. It does not hold up at all in retrospect. And that's the thing with 3D is that no one's watching this film in 3D at home. And even if you did, you just watch a lot of shitty effects. There's not much to the story. There's not much to the characters. I didn't explain much of the characters. The girl, her dad died, and she thought he was crazy about this whole notion. And somehow her and Brendan Fraser fall in love because they save each other a couple times. So just, something that happens in a lot of movies. I don't buy them falling in love. At least Josh Hutcherson as the kid, they didn't make him too much of an annoying brat. I appreciate that. At the beginning, usually there's a notion that he's going to be this fucking brat. You just want to smack him in the face. They don't do that. But he goes in and he's like, oh, okay. And when Brendan Fraser shows him a yo-yo, he's like, oh, okay. He's not just being a complete dickhead. There's a lot of times they could be written to that nature. Just that's the arc. No, don't have us completely dislike the character from the beginning. So they didn't do that, at least. So I'll give credit to that portion. And it is a short film. If you take out the end credits, it's under 90 minutes. And I say it goes by a fast pace. Watch the trailer. If the effects, well, everything's in the trailer pretty much. If you're a diehard Brendan Fraser fan, or you're a diehard fan of the idea of Journey to the Center of Earth, and you're into those kind of movies, feel free. I just very I found it very mediocre. A very mediocre film. Brendan Fraser and the pacing do the best they can, but they can't ultimately save it. So with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.